Hello and welcome back to Empower Your Teen. I'm Emma B. Perez. This is part 2 of the info series, 6 Ways to Avoid 50K in Surprise College Costs. Now, I left you in part 1 with the misconception, if you don't go now, you'll never go. The thing is, that's true for some people. It is not true for others. So I want to take a moment to talk about young people who take some time after high school, the ones who don't go directly into college after high school. Why some of them will end up going eventually and why some of them won't, and just all of the details of that, okay? So first, let's focus on those who do end up going. One of the main reasons why people take time after high school is because they need time to rest and heal from burnout, but they will go. Now, I want to get into the details of this really quickly. We know that high school is very, very stressful. High school is so stressful. All of the, tests they take and the scores that they need to get and the kind of grades that they need to get, and they need to graduate and they need to be accepted into college. There's a lot of stress there. And we already know what stress can do to a person's body and mind. What not a lot of people know is that teenagers are dealing with this stress while sleep deprived. Here's the thing, you guys. Adults need, as you probably know, about 6 to 8 hours of sleep. And a lot of us remember from when our kids were little that they need around 10 to 12 hours of sleep. What we forget is that teenagers are still children, and teenagers actually need about 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night. Now, another thing that not a lot of people know is that when humans hit puberty, our sleep-wake cycles shift about 2 hours later. Now, here's what that means. As an adult, melatonin typically kicks in between 9 and 11 o'clock at night. But for teenagers, the melatonin doesn't kick in until after 11, sometime between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. But it's not just the evening, the melatonin, it's the whole cycle shifts later, okay? So let's think about this for a second. Their melatonin kicks in between 11 and 1, and they need 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. So on average, the ideal sleep cycle for a teenager is midnight to 9 a.m. Now think about that for a second. Think about what time your child has to get up in the morning to get to school, and how late their extracurriculars go, and how late their homework goes. Is your child sleep deprived? Because I'll tell you 90% of children in the United States are sleep deprived. The CDC has called it an epidemic. And sleep deprivation alone can lead to depression, anxiety, and suicide. And so you pile that on top of all of the pressure that they're feeling in high school, all the stress that they have. Some of them may be very burned out. And it would actually be a really good idea to just take a little bit of time, take a year or so, to just get a fun job and just, put a little bit of money away and spend a little bit of money and take the time to heal and rest. And that is okay. So these kids who are just a little bit burned out and need a little bit of rest, they will still go, and I'll guarantee you they will do better in college after they've had this time. I'll guarantee you. Now, there are also some that take an intentional gap year. Obviously, if you're taking a year to heal from burnout, that is a gap year, yes. But there are some that are also doing a specific program during this time. Not only are they resting, but they're doing a program. Maybe it's a program where they get to travel. Maybe it's a program that helps them figure out what they want before they start dropping tens of thousands of dollars on a degree. And this is actually really a great thing. Now, I've heard some people express concern about, well, colleges want you to come straight from high school. They don't want you to have a year off. And that's just not true. Colleges actually really like gap year kids. And there are even some colleges that are actively encouraging it. They may be offering financial aid. They may be allowing students to defer enrollment for a year. They recognize that gap years can actually help develop a number of practical and interpersonal skills that can be really valuable and aid to success while they are at college. There are lots of benefits of taking a gap year, any kind of gap year. It can develop responsibility and independence. It allows for developing new skill sets. It provides for real life context that will shape a college experience differently. I guarantee you, if someone's rested, if someone has had some real life experiences that they haven't had in high school, they will have a different college experience because of it. And a lot of times, this real life context shaping their college experience leads to better grades. They're older, they have a little bit more life, so better grades. Depending on the gap year program that they do, this can often develop a commitment to civic engagement. And for undecided students, it can really offer a chance to honestly think about what they want to pursue, and they'll have real world experience to help shape that decision for them. So a gap year for any reason can be very beneficial and often still leads to going to university, completing their degree, and often leads to a completely different experience. They're older, they understand things more, they'll have a very different experience. So those are the ones who do take time and still do end up going. Let's take a minute to talk about the ones who won't go. The main thing I want you to keep in mind is just someone who doesn't go to college straight after high school, that's not indicative of them never going. There is a chance that they will still go, and there's a chance that they may not, but there are even particular reasons for that. So I want to talk about that. First, you really need to think about somebody's intelligence type and their learning style and the learning environment that they're considering. Okay, when you think about a learning environment, I mean, even between university and high school, those learning environments are very, very different. And there are young people who struggle with that transition because of how different it is. There are some kids who do really well in high school that struggle in college because it's just a different learning environment. We all have our own intelligence type and our own learning style. So it's about finding the right learning environment for you. And for some, university is just fine. And for others, university is not the best learning environment for them. So they won't end up there, and that is perfectly okay. And then finally, we have some that just don't need a university degree. All right. So depending on their field, they may or may not need a degree, and it may actually be a wiser financial decision not to go. Now, there are other types, other ways to further your education. Those would be more needed, or they may not need anything at all. It really just depends. Okay. So you really want to do your research. So let's go ahead and take a minute to talk about these other types of higher education, other ways to further your education after high school, because this isn't often talked about. When I was doing my college career workshops at high schools, they rarely knew about the other options, and many of them would just automatically write them off because of a stigma against anything else other than university, which is just unfortunate. So let's talk about this. I actually want to talk about 4 alternatives, and here's the thing. 2 of them are just pure alternatives. The other 2 could either be an alternative or they could be a less expensive path to a bachelor's degree. Okay, so let's talk first about the 2 that are just pure alternatives. First, we have apprenticeships. Now, for some occupations, the education for it is an apprenticeship, and these vary in time. And what's really great about an apprenticeship is that you're learning on the job, so you're actually compensated for the work that you do. So you're getting paid to learn. So I have an example here. It's elevator technician. Elevator technicians, this is a 5-year apprenticeship. And the average salary once you're fully in the field is $79,000. Now this is average across the United States. So you may start at around 40 or 50,000. But on the high end, I've seen the high end for this go up to 121,000. So this is a great example. These people do well financially, and they have no education debt. Okay, so some occupations don't need a degree, and that's okay because they have things like apprenticeships. These are great opportunities. We also have trade schools or vocational schools. Okay, now I've seen a lot of I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear, there's a car alarm going off in the background. If you can hear that, my apologies. Not mine, so hopefully it'll go off soon. Trade schools are, for some reason, there's a stigma against vocations. And I mean, I could probably go into all of my theories on why that is, but I know that you know, the salary, how much money you're going to make comes into it. Some people think of these as just like really dirty jobs. Maybe they don't want to do that. It just kind of depends on what it is. But here's the thing. Some people won't be satisfied sitting behind a desk. They want to be using their hands and they want to be working. And so these might be a better option for them. As far as the salaries go, the gap is closing. These are becoming very comparable salaries for a lot of reasons. First of all, you actually start working sooner. You start getting income sooner because a trade program is going to be 9 months to 2 years. So you get to your profession sooner. You start earning sooner. And then also the educational debt is far less. Not only that, but this is an area that has high demand. There's high demand for these jobs. You know, most people are going to college, they're going to university, so there's an oversupply there. And people have these degrees, but they're having a hard time getting work. Whereas no one's going into this area. And the majority of tradesmen are baby boomers and they're retiring and jobs are being left vacant. So there's a high demand here. Not to mention, all of these things are integral to our livelihoods, right? We need it for our societies to keep functioning. So there's always going to be job security. There's high demand for it. There's less student debt. You start working sooner. So these really should be considered. I don't know why there's so much of a stigma against them. We need to get rid of that stigma. These are great, great options, okay? So these are two alternatives to higher ed that are far, far less expensive and are great things to consider. Now, I want to mention two more that could either be an alternative to university or they could be a path to a bachelor's degree. The first one is the military. With the military, you can receive top-notch training in a variety of career options, often with room and board. And here's the thing, if you decide to go to college later, you'll receive VA benefits. And these VA benefits are really great. A lot of times you can get most of your costs covered. Now, if you're a parent who is in the military and did not use your VA benefits, then a child can use them. So you can think about that for yourself and your child, or if your child goes this route and they don't use it, then the VA benefits can go on to their child. So this is just another, like I said, it could be an alternative itself, or it could be a path to a university degree that would save you lots and lots and lots of money. And then finally, we have community college. So this is, you know, what a lot of people call the 2-year degree school. It's community college. What's interesting about this is that some actually offer both vocational diplomas and associate's degrees. So if you're considering a vocation, then you can look into trade schools and community colleges. You can compare the programs and the costs and see which one's better. Now, when it comes to associate's degrees, some associate's degrees are career specific while others are broader. What that means is, I'll give you an example. If you have an interest in being an American Sign Language interpreter, that is an associate's degree. The required qualifications for that is just an associate's degree. So you can go to school, 2 years, get your associate's degree, be done with your qualifications and start working. Simple as that. Other associate's degrees are broader. Now, what that means is with any bachelor's degree that you earn, approximately 60 hours of that is going to be general education courses. And then 60 or more hours will be degree specific. So community college is a really great place to go. Get your gen eds done, at a much better price tag, okay? And because they're gen eds, they are much more likely to transfer. So if this is something that you want to consider, I will also suggest that you look into community colleges that have some sort of partnership with a university that will guarantee that your credits transfer. Because every school takes a look, and this is true. So quick side note about transferring universities, and this is for any time you transfer in any way at all. The incoming school is going to look at those credits and they will determine if they're going to apply them to whatever degree you're seeking with them. So tip here is to keep all of your syllabi. If you submit syllabi with your transcript, they have more information to go on to determine if the credit's going to transfer or not. But back to community college, if you are going to a community college with a partnership with the university, you won't have to worry about that. But still keep them. You never know. Just keep it. So this is a great way to get your gen eds done, to save a lot of money over 2 years. Then you can transfer on to a university, finish out your degree there, save a lot of money. So yeah, so community college can be an alternative in and of itself, or it can be a much more cost-effective path to university. Okay, so the point that I want to try to hit home here is you gotta calculate your return on investment. That's really important these days. Don't just blindly go into university because that's what everybody's doing or whatever it is. You want to take some time to consider all of your higher ed options and then compare those costs with the average annual income for your field. Okay. Now, some occupations, there's only one path, but other occupations, there are multiple paths that you could potentially take. And so you really want to calculate your return on investment here and find the most cost-effective path, okay? So just a quick review here. These are the things that are adding years and therefore money, tens of thousands of dollars to college costs. Taking less than 15 hours per semester, going in without a good solid game plan, changing majors, and in some cases even transferring schools. So in the next part, part 3, we're going to spend some time talking about how to avoid these costly mistakes. You probably already got your brain whirring in there, thinking about calculating return on investment and other higher ed options and all these things. I want to go into this even more detail, the steps that you can actually take to avoid some costly mistakes. Okay, so I will see you in part 3.